Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we are looking at best bets here for Game 4 in the Western Conference Finals. Mavs going for the sweep tonight against Minnesota. We've also got Play a Props up in a separate episode for you. Bring both of those to you each and every day now, so make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along. Also head to thelines.com and use everything that we're putting up on the site right now, including that prop finder tool to make sure that you're getting the best odds and juice lines, I should say, back to your way from all these books giving us bets this season. Nate, let's go ahead and run right into your first best bet here for this Game 4.
Yeah, I mean, originally I was looking again at Mavs to win the fourth quarter, and then I see the spreads all the way down to -2, and I'm like, well, what scenario do they win the fourth and not cover 2? So let's just say Mavs -2. Like, I mean, I guess the scenario is Wolves build a big lead, Mavs are closing it, they win the fourth, but they don't quite seal the deal, and I don't see that happening at all. Like, the way the Wolves have been playing in this fourth quarter, like, if things start to go awry, it's just 1, 2, 3 Cancun. And in general, that might be the sentiment right now in that locker room, because it's just such an awkward situation for Chris Finch and his staff, where like your most expensive, most high profile big men are just like killing you in different ways on opposite ends of the floor. And it's like, we probably, if we could just like play Naz Reid and Kyle Anderson, we would have a much better chance in this series. But we have to like have Rudy in at the end of the game for whatever reason. And we have to play Cat his requisite 30 plus minutes so he can just brick a bunch of shots. And I just don't think we can trust him maybe to bounce back a little bit after one of the worst performances you'll ever see in a Game 3 there. But I don't think enough to help Ant, draw the defense away from him enough for this Wolves team to close. I mean, the fourth quarter numbers are just so stark. And I mean, that's why we're talking about the Mavs winning again, because like they relish. It's almost like they're toying with the Wolves. Like, yeah, come on, let's get into a close game again. Like, we'll even spot you 5 points, and then we'll just rip your heart out again. They're now plus 30 net in the fourth quarter. Luka in the fourth quarter, 64-67% splits. He's 81% true shooting in this series. Kyrie, 122 offensive rating. Ant and Cat are both about 85 offensive rating. It talked about how the Wolves in the clutch post All-Star break were showing that they couldn't really score. 97 offensive rating in that situation, and it's 95 in this series. So still running into the same problems where guys other than Ant can't necessarily create. It's a lot of like, Mike Conley, save us, save this possession, please. And it's like, he's like, yeah, I mean, that wasn't even my game back when I was like 29, but I'll do what I can here. And then on the other end, we know like Luka and Kyrie are just, they're fresh because they're trading blows. They're absolutely killing this Wolves defense, whatever they want to throw at them. The matchup is just too tough. Unless you want to play Naz and Kyle Anderson, because they can guard Luka all right. But every time he gets one of their starters, like the starting lineup is just getting roasted down the stretch. And I don't know if the Wolves are going to be able to adjust on that in time to save their season here.
I wouldn't bank on it. I mean, what are the ways in which the Timberwolves win this game, right? Like, it to me, it has to come on defense. And honestly, like, there's on offense, like, I'm not as worried, especially without Lively in there in this game. And we're going to see Maxi Kleber, who's been listed as good to go in this one. Sure, he'll be on a minutes restriction, but he will be available. And then some Dwight Powell. So, like, defense just got worse for Dallas, for sure. So, like, there's opportunities to score now. But the problem is like, so Lively's out. So what, you're going to score more down low? No, like Rudy doesn't have an offensive game. Then to your point, like, why is Rudy in there in these situations? It's so like unfortunate where you have these wonderful reserves who are performing better than the starters. And yet, money's going to probably dictate who gets the turn in these games. And I mean, I'm not ready to sit here and fully declare that Naz Reid is just better than Cat. There's still like something to the idea that, playing 38 minutes, 39 minutes in a game exposes you if you're out there for long enough. And Naz has played 31 so far, but it's hard to make a case for Cat right now. And like shooting 1,500 shots a day, allegedly, and still feeling frustration that they're not going in the games. But the only way that I see the Timberwolves doing this is on defense is the main point. Like, I think on offense, they can get theirs enough. On defense, like, you still haven't switched it up. You still haven't done anything different. You still have Rudy just dropping. They're just waltzing together back towards the basket, and then Luka's in a position to score. And when he's not, he's just a killer from deep as well, and Kyrie just is a perfect Batman. So
And as soon as
I
they
agree
do
with that.
switch it up, like that's the thing. Like Jason Kidd and Luca are just like 3 steps ahead of them. You remember that play in the fourth where like they finally went back to blitzing Luca, and before the double even got there, the ball was to Kyrie on the wing. He swung it to PJ, wide open three, and they're like, "Yep, we knew you were going to adjust to that, and we were ready for it." And we're just getting such easy shots off anything you change.
Totally. Yep. The return, the sort of the story arc for Jason Kidd, that of like an anime character, continues to move along in the positive direction. He's come back from the dead and has done a really really good job, to your point. And it really helps when you have Kyrie as that second dude. That was kind of why he was my second point behind Luka's killing him, drop defense, and then just give the ball to Kyrie. And now you've got it in a situation where the focus of the defense left one of the best players in the NBA, because you just sort of lost focus on him, one of the best offensive players in the league for sure. And I do like the threes tonight for Kyrie just as a thing, but like he's continued to show his mid range and driving to the hoop is unimpacted by players like Cat and Rudy, more importantly. But I'm going to go with an over in the first quarter, and points have been really available in this series, much more so than maybe some people thought. Especially coming, and by some people I mean me, coming back to Dallas here. I thought there was going to be a lot fewer points the way that Dallas plays at home, and how Dallas has been much better as like a not cover team, but as a going over team on the road a bit more. But no, that hasn't really been the case in all three now, where the first quarter has averaged almost 60 points per game, actually exactly 60 points per game, 31.3 for the Timberwolves in this series, which is amazing. You can get maybe like a little first quarter Timberwolves to lead and the Mavs to win the game bet on DraftKings, about plus 315, I believe. So some pretty good odds there for something like that. But I still think the total goes over, and I think the Timberwolves are a big part of the reason for that. But also between Luka and Kyrie, like one of them has done extreme work in the first quarter of every game in the playoffs, basically. So, I expect them to be able to lift this total past 51.5 on the Dallas end pretty much single-handedly between the two of them. It's like, which one do you want? Like, how do you guys want it in the first quarter? We'll cook it up with Kyrie here. You don't want that? All right, we only had one good game in the first quarter. Don't worry, Luka's taking 6 shots a first quarter and making 1 3 per first quarter. Like, they're getting to the line 2 times per first quarter. Like, they're both getting theirs. Luka had 6.5 points in the first quarter last game, was a complete steal. That was just free money. I don't know why they left it at that, but even now it's at 7.5. I'm great with it. You look at the overs in the first quarter of this series, over in all three. Obviously, when you average about 60 points per first quarter, and this thing is at 51.5, it's most likely gone over all 3 times, which it has. And playing at 100 pace in this first quarter between all 3, which is wild, and helped out by this 106 pace that they played in game 2 in that first Q. But like the other 2 were still above 96, so they're still playing way faster in these first quarters than they are in the other ones. And in part, on the other side of the ball, that's Ant Edwards. Ant Edwards is coming out and pushing the pace in the first quarter, also taking a ton of shots and really trying to get his. And like you said, it's almost just like the Mavs are just like a UFC fighter on their back, and they're like, I might seem like I'm in a compromised position, but I'm super comfortable right here with this dude who's trying to grapple me on, like they're just sitting there just taking blows and dodging them, and then coming back in these other quarters and playing like, all right, you guys can play at your cute little 100 pace in the first quarter. We're going to slow things down to Mavs hoops in the second, third, and fourth. 90 pace in the second, 94 in the third, which adds up. You come out with that little break, and then you play a little bit faster, and also trying to come out and force the action and the Wolves in general have seemed like they're really trying to force the action in the third quarter here as they come out from usually either winning or right, just a small margin between either teams at the half. It's been really close at most of these halves, other than the one where the Wolves were kind of whooping them, and the Mavs came back from down 18. But then the fourth quarter goes right back to that 90 pace, which is once again, you kind of talked about it. It's like you could have taken the fourth quarter for the Mavs, or you could just take the -2 because you believe that they'll pull anything out with such a small spread anyway, that they don't have much to come. Like even if they have to come back, they can overcome that and win by at least 2 points. And that's the concept for the fourth quarter is like, you ain't getting what you want in the fourth quarter from the Mavs on defense. We'll see how Lively not being available impacts things, because he has gotten the majority of the minutes in the fourth quarter. But honestly, like as good as he's been on offense, and really his offense has been the result of out rebounding Rudy on those offensive boards or Luka finding him for easy shots. Like Luka can find other guys. Dwight Powell standing in the right spot can still get an easy dunk. So the offense is a little bit less impacted by Lively's absence. In fact, Kleba in there is pretty good on offense. Usually it's actually been on defense that he's been a liability. So we're getting a lot more offensive play coming into the game here without Lively, a lot less defense. I think that'll show its head in the first quarter as well, because Lively's been playing about 7 to 8 minutes of that first quarter. Now we're just going to get a bunch more Gafford and PJ Washington playing a little bit closer to the basket. So I'm still good with the over 51.5 in Q1 here.
Yeah, and from a player prop perspective, like I actually like Ant in the first quarter once again, three straight now going over 7.5 where his props at, and he's the favorite to lead the game at plus 170 because you kind of saw him flip that switch and in the
Sorry,
third
lead
quarter.
the first quarter, right? In points.
Yes, first
Yeah.
quarter in
Yeah.
points. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, we're not taking any Wolves bets down the stretch.
Right.
No, sir.
Right.
But you saw him. I mean, first of all, only 0 for 2 from three last game. Like he's done with that. Whatever happened in game one, where he took a ton of shots from the perimeter, and then that third quarter, he just realized like, wait a minute, I can just like dunk on these dudes, and then get myself going and like where I'm most dangerous. And so I expect him to come out aggressive from jump, like we said, in three straight after these losses, and he has. So I mean, that certainly sets the tone for Minnesota to score about 30, and then Dallas will be right there because they haven't been stopped either. So I like it. I mean, same bet for me basically, which is just like first half over 103 versus you're looking at 211 for the game now. And we talk about playoff games, they slow down. And so if you're getting a little bit more value on the first half, but more so like we can trust Minnesota to score in the first half because Dallas hasn't like yet put up whatever adjustment they've been waiting to spring on young Ant to confuse him and whatever they need to do down the stretch to just baffle this team. It seems like the Wolves scoring 58 in the first half and 48 in the second. They're 122. Their offensive rating is 16 points better per 100 possessions, and their assist to turnover ratio is about 2 better. It's a 3.1, very good. Game 3 got over this because Dallas couldn't miss, but Minnesota also got 52 despite going 4 for 16 from deep. So they were able to get it going attacking the basket despite Cat going 2 for 10 and submerging their offense in the mire there. And yeah, I think with your season on the line, we are going to see Finch his hand forced, more Nas, more slow mo. Who you look at the top lineups for the Wolves, and like 6 of the 7 best offensive lineups have slow mo in them right now in the series. The top 2 with Nas are like 127, 138 offensive rating. They're just very good when you have somebody who's going to hit his threes and make a couple plays off the dribble. And I mean, we don't worry about the Dallas offense at this point. They came out kind of slow in the first halves, and then just completely cracked the code to get wide open corner threes everywhere. Sure, they made them all to get 60 points, but we're only talking about like 52, where their total is here to get that. And I mean, maybe they just continue to stay hot. I mean, we are at home. Role players shoot well at home, as we know. No Lively, yes Kleba, yes Dwight Powell. This all speaks to like more points. I just don't think, like I was saying with Game 4 with the Pacers last night, I don't think we can trust this, the team that is just getting whooped in the fourth quarter to keep up the scoring pace to get the game total. But I can trust them in the first half to come out desperate to keep scoring and hang in the game.
Yeah, we're in that weird moment in time where like 210 seemed like it wasn't really a number we were going to hit in this conference finals. I think the expectation was probably that by the time we get to the 14th and 15th game of the playoffs for each of these teams, which was going to occur in this series, then like things were going to slow down and the offense was going to wane, and it's only gone up. It's at 210 now for the total for the whole game, which is not terribly scary considering they've gone over that in this series, but like they've just butted up against it. I do think things tighten up a little bit for both teams. If it's close in the fourth and you have an opportunity to close out a team, you tighten up a little bit more. But I'm still going to take the over for both teams to get 105 points at least. So each team to score 101 in this game is minus 105 on DK. And like this is just something that's happened super consistently. I once again, the subs in this series, in this particular game, right, for Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber, like that's a big deal. We'll see how long Gafford can go, because if Gafford gets in foul trouble, which he's avoided pretty much for most of this series, but like he's also only been out there for 22 minutes a game. And if you're going to leave him in for longer stretches of time, the likelihood that he picks up fouls is going to be a lot greater with Ant going to the bucket. And even Rudy getting some of those, more like for Rudy, it's not like the and ones you're as worried about. Although to a degree, like that's been the strategy. Is like Gafford, feel free to get 2 fouls in the first quarter. We've got Derek Lively, so we've got 10 fouls to work with here between the two of you, 12 technically, but like 10 hopefully to keep you in there. Let's say 11, so at least one of you's out there. You see, there's a lot of fouls to go around on a man that you would love to have at the free throw line. So that might impact things as well for Gafford. And honestly, like Gafford being off the floor is great for overs at this point. There's not much defense behind him down low, which we'll see how crucial that is. PJ Washington's done an incredible job on Cat driving to the rim, but that's also where I'm at too. Is like, is there going to be positive regression at some point for the best shooting big man of all time, the self prescribed ascribed one? Like, I don't know. I would imagine you can't go like 5 for 20 and 6 for 18 like too consistently, but he's done it now 2 games in a row and has had an awful series. That said, like, if you're Finch, like when is it time to just like deploy a lot more Slow-Mo and Naz Reid? Like we saw, like you said, like Slow-Mo stay out of the game for way too long. If you look at his substitution rotations, like Slow-Mo doesn't come in the second half until the very end of the third quarter. I just think that's too late. I don't know what you're waiting for. Like if Cat misses 3 shots in a row, you don't need to worry about his self-esteem and build. Like you need to win the game. You can't afford to get kicked out of these playoffs. So like just give me more Naz and a little bit more Slow-Mo. And yeah, Slow-Mo has been a bit better for the defense, and he's not always going to be off some for pace. His freaking nickname is Slow-Mo Anderson. But at the same time, like you said, the efficiency of the offense has just been so much more. There is a little bit of like they're forgetting about him, and so that's helpful as well. Where he just ends up rolling into the paint, and they're like looking at everybody else and not worried about him. So that's helpful. But Dallas has gone over this number 11 of 13 games. Luka was injured in the first 2 games of the series of the Clippers series. So they've gone over, 11 of 15 total. But in the first 2 games of the series against the Clippers, Luka was still hurt. They didn't get to 100 in either of those games. Not the same Mavs team that we're looking at right now, obviously. Much healthier and in a way bigger groove than they were at that point in the playoffs and just pulling things together. For Minnesota, they were incredibly erratic during the Nuggets series, as we know, after just pounding the Suns. And they're back in a situation where, once again, I'm not worried about them. There's so many outs here. There's Cat shooting going up even just a little bit. There is Mike Conley maintaining what he's been doing and not having that one bad game that he had. And then Ant, if you go back to all his numbers, like he's missing bunnies. He's missing layups at the rim. And I know that they're contested and it's tough and it's not like he's just waltzing in with an open layup, but he has a lot of room for positive progression as well, because like those shots, he missed 6 inside the paint, inside the restricted area in game 2. He missed 3 inside the restricted area and 6 inside the paint in this last game. Like these are shots that he normally makes. I would agree that he's going to come on pretty strong here. I think we might need to take a look at his points, but just as importantly, like the whole team can come along for the ride here. And I expect us to see both these teams at 101 points once again.
Yeah, I love this bet. This is what I've been betting on the series the last 3 games now, and the market is finally correcting a little bit, but still, like, yeah, only have to go up 1 point basically to get even money. Like it was 99.5 was the good odds. And yeah, again, it comes down to like they had 48 minutes of rim protection with Gafford and Lively. And now Powell's okay guarding the rim, but like I don't know how long he can stay out there. And I mean, maybe part of Jason Kidd looking so brilliant was like he kind of lucked out that Maxi Kleber's not available here for this series, because like it could be a different story in terms of like Cat and Ant's confidence if they got some minutes with Maxi Kleber as the last line of defense. They'd be like, okay, I can go all the way to the basket here, but Lively was just so good defensively, and that's going to be definitely a factor here for points.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Gafford. It's going to be a huge X factor in this game, and probably some PJ Washington in there as well. And we'll see how many minutes Powell and Kleber can last on the floor, but they will only help the offense and not necessarily the defense to our points here. So that is all the time, though, that we have for you in Best Bets. Continue to follow along, subscribe to that page, check out the Play a Props episode that we also have up now for you alongside these Best Bets each and every day. And until we see you next, happy betting.